In the 16th chapter of the Gospel of Luke, there is a interesting and difficult text that I kind of want to touch on a little bit this morning. This one is for all the business people in the house, all the entrepreneurs, those who have legal businesses and I don't know why y'all started laughing. I was just talking about those that are yet to be filed the proper paperwork. It says in that 16th chapter, starting at verse 1, Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. The manager got fired in the text. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I don't get my hands dirty. And I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, you all right? I'm just reading the Bible. How much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master, watch this thing now, commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than the people of light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcome into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little, whoever can be trusted with very little, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one, somebody say no one, can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the others, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the others. You cannot serve both God and money. I want to talk real quickly because I don't want this to be more painful than it needs to be. I want to talk this morning simply about being faithful over a few things. Just being faithful over a few things. It is an interesting story in this gospel according to Luke. Matter of fact, we don't usually raise this story up for congregational thought because it seems to suggest it's all right to be shrewd. So when you read the story, the man who is stealing from the boss and cutting the books to suggest that what he's really owed, he's not really owed. What he's really been given, he's not really been given. And let me clarify this. I'm not talking about money this morning. I'm talking about stewardship. And he says, I'm not going to be upset at you because you made a shrewd move. And the shrewd move is he reduces what he owes the boss on the books by reducing what the folk who owe him have to pay him. Lesson number 1. Be careful who's willing to cut deals with you to save themselves. Every business opportunity is not necessarily in your best interest. The old folks used to say, if it sounds too good, it usually is. And they would take the longer way home because they realized that the shorter way was a setup. Do background checks on people who always got great ideas for your money, your time, and your talent. Also be careful of folks who always charging you every time they do something and nothing ever is in service mode. And so in the text, it says this is a shrewd businessman who says, you know what, since I've been fired, I'm going to make sure I ain't broke. And so what he does, he reduces the amounts that's really owed to the boss so that everybody wins and they, in fact, can be entitled to him. You ought to be careful who you let represent you to the boss. You ought to know what your books say you have been given, what you have been blessed with. You ought not let somebody else determine how much talent God has given you or how much time God has given. Be careful for the folks who always say, it don't take all of that. The reason it don't take all of that for them because they don't have what you have. The more that God has blessed you, it all take more time to be thankful for what the Lord has blessed you with. I'm not talking about money this morning. I'm talking about time and talent. And so if you really understand what a good steward is, it's not somebody who cheats the one who gave them the wherewithal to be where they're at. Could you imagine charging God for the gifts he's blessed us with? That'd be like him charging us for the air we breathe. We couldn't keep up. And so I want you to understand that when you're entrusted with somebody else's welfare, somebody else's property, somebody else's trust, be careful how you take care of them because God is watching. If you can't be honest with them, you surely can't be honest with him. If you cheat a brother or sister, you'll cheat God. Be careful who you think you got the keys to the kingdom to let in. Because if God ever pulls out one of our videos and runs it in reverse, and folks see what he's delivered us from, and how much we still owe God, and we still need to be blessed, we wouldn't be as puffed up in church as we are. We wouldn't be a sedity in church. If the real video ever got shown, people might put their bags on the other side of you. They may move their children away from you. Aren't you glad that God doesn't let folk know how much we really owe him? And so I'm grateful that he doesn't let y'all know what's really in my account. Really, it's not anybody else's business. That's why when folk asking you stuff, they should. I've learned, I've gotten older, and I've learned a new way to respond to people when they ask stuff they shouldn't ask. I just don't respond. I said, Pastor, did you hear me? Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna say nothing? Mm-mm. That's translation. That's none of your business. And folk will ask all kinds of stuff to see just how much you'll tell them. So Jesus tells this parable about a manager who handled his master's possessions carelessly. And then he acted shrewdly when faced with accountability. You do know accountability is coming. You do know that one day the Lord's going to call us in for all the stuff we thought we got away with. The old folks used to say, you can get by, but you can't get away. My grandmama's great line was, hey, baby, ain't no right way to do wrong. That about sums up life. Ain't no right way to do wrong. So here's the thing I want you to get this morning. God is the true owner of everything meaningful in my life. Everything substantial, everything that's going to make a difference, everything that has eternal value belongs to God. And the reality is, I am a steward of what God has blessed me with. Now, don't waste a lot of time looking at what God has blessed other folks with, because you can fool around and miss your blessing by watching somebody else. What God has for you is for you. And don't blow it by watching what he does for somebody else. And here's the back of this. One day, you and I are going to have to give an account of how we used our time, our talent, and our treasures. I don't care what you tell me. One day, you and I are going to have to stand in the presence of the Almighty and say, here's what I did with my time, my talents, and my treasures. At the end of the day, that's all this is about. What did I do with my time, my talent, and my treasures? Now, here's the thing. In verses 1 through 3, the manager gets caught not knowing that day was his last day. There's nowhere in the text where he got a verbal warning, written warning. The union representative didn't get called in. Nobody to plead his case. On that day, he's accused of wasting his master's goods. Now, what happened with that? You have to understand. Tell the person next to you, this part's for you. I'm going to write it down so we won't forget. That I want you to get this now. Position and privilege are temporary. So you may be all of that right now, but that don't get to make it to glory. They may bow and scrape in front of you now, But that don't translate to glory. So whatever you think you are now, however important you may be, however you may be over all these folks, that's temporary. And when you understand it's temporary, you treat folk differently. You got elected to what? You ain't the first and ain't going to be the last. You know what I'm not confused about? When I'm gone from here, y'all still going to have another pastor. Now, for a lot of y'all, I'll be better than I was when I'm gone. Because your memories ain't going to remember the real stuff. People are always better in their memory than in their reality. Your position and your privilege, so be careful about spending so much time preparing your children for something that's temporary. There's no job, there's no profession, there's no sports, there's no skill set that's going to last forever. So, what's the reality of that? Everything you have, everything I have, money, gifts, cars, influences, homes, belongs to God. And here's the thing, mismanagement leads to loss. You cannot keep mismanaging what God has given you and not end up losing it. Now, you may not lose the physical thing, but you will lose peace, joy, tenderness. You know how good it is to wake up and realize that no matter what happens today, God got me? If y'all fire me tomorrow, I'm still good. It's church. Today, if y'all fire me today, I'm still good. Why? Because it does not depend on where I punch a clock. The God who provided when I didn't have will provide again when I don't have. Everything I have is temporary. Watch this now. And we fall out about most stuff between each other over temporary stuff. Everything I have, money, gifts, influence, belongs to God. Well, if it belongs to God, let's run the inventory. How much time beyond this hour and a half you checking in with the Almighty? Or once a week, or do you? Is the only time somebody knows you're a Christian is when you come here. Is the only time he's so good is right now. When I look at the inventory of my time, am I really giving God what I owe him? Because it belongs. How can I deny him what belongs to him? You don't get brownie points because you showed up. How much of what I have belongs to him? Everything. So this week, little homework. Just take out your phone or whatever you use and just chart your God time. Just chart it. I'm not going to ask you to show me next week. We're not going to put it on the board. You just need to know for yourself. Because if I'm honest, I can't speak for you, but for me, I'm woefully lacking in the time I give him, even though all the time belongs to him. Could I? It couldn't be possible that I would spend more time on social media than I will in spiritual discipline. I can make my other meetings, but I can't make prayer meeting. I wouldn't dare miss that, but I'll get to this anytime. I was here last Sunday. How many Sundays do you expect? Well, how many blessings do you want? God should not be, how do I say this? Localized to a crisis God. I'll be honest with you, sometimes in my calling, I struggle with the fact it's the only time I hear from folk is when they're in crisis. But that ain't my thing. I struggle with it, but God doesn't. Because sometimes God has to allow some things to happen in order to get our attention. So the manager has to deal with this crisis. But the manager was kin to us. He got a strategy. You look at verses 4 through 8. He acts decisively. He cuts debts. He gains favor with others. Anytime people tell you, they tell you they're going to cut your debt, you'll listen. I'm going to show you how to. And here's the question. If that person was so smart, why are they talking to you? And paying you rent. So he acts decisively, cuts debts to gain favor. Sometimes folk will do you favors to gain favor. But be careful who always got a deal going on. And I'll be honest with you, there's some folk who love money more than they love the master. So the master commends him for his shrewdness. Watch this. But not his dishonesty. You can be shrewd and not dishonest. I'm going to just let that sit there. People always think they know more than everybody else, don't realize how many folk know more than them. I've always trained my children, if you're the smartest person in the group, change your group. Because there's always folk who know more. And you ought to hang around some folk who know more. You ought to develop a care group of know more folk. Folk who know more than you know. There's also be a no more care group. I ain't going to fool with you no more. That's whether you use the K or the N, I don't care. But you need some no more groups in your life. Now you decide which one you want to join. But the reality is, he didn't get upset in the parable with the man's shrewdness. You work that thing. Followers, and here's where this thing becomes controversial. Followers of Christ should use resources with foresight, preparing for eternity, rather than clinging to temporary wealth. Okay, so let me see if I can work this. Sometimes folk who are pursuing worldly things are more tenacious about that pursuit than church folks pursuing salvation. And that's why the world don't really take us serious. Because we will adjust what we say is unadjustable based upon what we're going to get out the deal. I can miss it this one time. If y'all said it after church, I can get there. Well, why can't they come with you to church and then y'all can go together? I'm saying to you that the world is far more tenacious about what it believes in than we are about what we say we believe in. And yet ours is the only thing that's eternal ramifications. And whatever you think you got is temporary. 42 years. I accompanied a whole bunch of folk to the cemetery. But in all them 42 years, there have been those who had a whole bunch of hearses and cars, and some that didn't have any of that. But ain't nobody in 42 years. Nobody in 42 years. I'm yet to see it. Ain't nobody connected a U-Haul to the hearse and took all the stuff that folks spent their life accumulating and put it in. Nobody. All the stuff you spending your energy and time and health for, your folk, friends, and family. Sometimes I just had to laugh. They didn't already figure out what they taking and what they ain't taking. You got that, you got that. Okay, this go to the. So you understand this thing. The stuff that's stressing you out is temporary. And God says, what are you going to do with what I gave you that has eternal implications? What's going with me to eternity? So you have to understand, what is it that your non-church family is more committed to than you're committed to Christ? But yet, if they're in trouble, they will have you call your pastor to come pray for them, even though they could never make time. And then y'all be looking at us crazy like, you want us to do it? I'm not upset, because if you call me and I get there, we coming. Because I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. But I do wrestle with the level of commitment that folk have in society that we don't have in the sanctuary. We come into church leaving. He gonna be done by brunch? Probably. All I'm trying to help you understand is that as followers of Christ, you ought to be committed to something that and not waver. Your kids ought to know that certain times of the week, certain times, we're going to be there. I wish we would, growing up, not show up for church. We could walk. We lived on 2nd Street. My daddy pastored on 5th Street. Do the math. The thought of not coming on a Sunday morning, I almost got a migraine thinking about it right now. Can I tell you? I was grown. I came home from school, and it was Christmas holiday, and over Christmas and New Year's. And I decided, because I was grown. I was in college, so I was grown. The one watch night, I'm not going. I've been going to watch night forever. And the night ain't going nowhere. I done watched it for 17 years. It's going to be here. I ain't going. Now, you don't need to know what I did, but I didn't go to watch night. So when I got home, when I got to my father's house, because he made it very clear in the conversation that obviously I had forgot where I lived. So here's what his words. So since you couldn't make it here, whatever you brought home, you need to pack that bag and take it to where you just left, because obviously that was more important than your home. And for a minute, Brother Ed, when you're young, you're stupid. For a minute I said, well, shoot, you ain't said nothing but a word. Let me get my stuff. But I forgot, Brother Ed, that he had the return ticket back to ATL for me to get in school. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful about one night blowing a return trip to where you came from. This life is temporary. And don't you mess up with foolishness, because folk who will keep you out all night won't let you back in. Yeah, after you gone. Lesson number 3 here. Lesson number 3. I'm almost finished. Verses 9 through 13. What he really says here is that you and I should use worldly wealth to bless others and advance the kingdom. Now, this is deep. So the only reason God blesses me in time, talent, and treasures is for me to bless others and advance the kingdom. So there's only 2 things that I should be doing with the wealth that God has given me. Blessing others and advancing. Now, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy. Praise God. There are going to be wealthy folk in the kingdom. Tell a person next, I told you. But God has allowed you to be that so you can bless others and advance the kingdom. So the question ultimately then is, what are you doing with your wealth to bless others and advance the kingdom? Because if I'm not blessing others and I'm not advancing the kingdom, then what am I doing? Some of y'all worried about your retirement and how this thing is fluctuating up and down, or what the case may be. Let me tell you something. It is going to be what it is going to be. And your mama and grandmama couldn't even think about what you got in your retirement package. You got more money set aside to bury you than they had to live on. Use your worldly wealth to bless others and advance the kingdom. So here it is. Faithful over a few things. It's right there in verses 10, 11, and 12. Integrity in small matters qualifies us for greater responsibilities. If you can't be faithful over small things, there's no need in submitting your resume for larger things. If you got a jealous spirit about cookies and milk, you sure can't handle a payoff and a payday. Some folk, I don't care what you did, they're so busy watching you that they can't see theirs coming. And so you have to begin to, whatever God has given me, he's asking me to be faithful over what I have. Not what anybody else in this house has. What have I blessed you with, Keith Allen Troy, and how are you using that to bless others and be faithful to the kingdom? I'm not going to ever get upset at what you drive, what you wear, where you live. That's you and your God. That has nothing to do with my eternal responsibilities. And don't be upset with me when God blesses me. Because here's my great line. Let me put your hand in your pocket and see if mine's in there. If it ain't in there, we ain't got no conversation. Ain't no bill come to your house with my name on it. Let's stop being jealous of how God blesses folk in the family. God is blessing them so they can be a blessing to somebody. It doesn't matter the amount. It matters the habit. I can take a little bit and do a lot with it. If you ever stop and think about what your grandparents did with the little bit they had, They could take care of 10 kids, and 10 kids can't take care of one grandparent. They always had money. They had to hide it, but they had it. Remember my grandmother, sometimes she would take a handkerchief, put that money in there and bring all the corners together. Then she tied a knot. Now, I don't know how much was in there, but there was always something. We got 9 credit cards and still ain't got nothing. Just keep looking at me. God blesses us to bless others. So the question then becomes, when the last time you blessed somebody who couldn't bless you back? And every time you give somebody $1 on the street, you ain't got to put that on social media. The Lord bless me today. Come on. Some stuff just ought to be between you, them, and God. And can I help you with this? If you're a Christian, get out the loan business. Especially with family. Don't loan your family a dime. If you can't give it to them, then don't. Because see, that mess starts family arguments, family just, some of y'all ain't speaking this morning. She still ain't giving back my $2 that she borrowed 20 minutes ago. Really? Don't loan what you can't lose. That's old school stuff. Yeah, I'm going to give you this with interest. You ain't going to get that or the interest. Let me help you with that. I gotta have, and I want this younger generation to really understand this, because we've not done a good enough job helping them understand that the most important thing, my sons and daughters, is integrity. Don't ever let your integrity be for sale. Because at the end of the day, it's all you have. Your integrity, your reputation cannot be for sale. If you'll cheat yourself, you'll cheat God. Your integrity. Your yes ought to be your yes. This old school stuff. And your no ought to be your no. If you got a room, take care of it. Because some of us grew up in hallways, in rollaway beds that came out the closet. My first bedroom wasn't a bedroom. It was a hallway. It wasn't mine. I had to share it with Adam and Eric's oldest brother. We slept head to toe. Whoever was the last one out had to fold up the layaway bed. Junior was smart. Junior knew when to get up, get out. The layaway bed weighed more than I did. Fold that bad boy up and roll it in the closet. I don't ever want to forget the layaway bed. I don't want to forget the closet. He's been so good. I am telling you that whatever God has given you is not for you. It's for you to take and be faithful with what you have and bless somebody else and shine a light on kingdom living. Some of my fondest memories are rollaway bed memories. Because when you sleep head to toe, you ain't never in the bed by yourself. Some of y'all got all this house and no home. How much more can you buy before you realize if you don't have him, it's sounding brass and tinkling cymbals? Who in your purview needs to be blessed? And when you bless them, don't take out an ad in the paper. Be quiet about it. Everybody, oh girl, let me tell you. No, bruh, keep that. I'd rather be broke than be an advertisement for you. Every now and then, you ought to have a think back moment. Folk, all they know is you now. They see you getting out what you getting out, putting on what you putting on. They have no idea where you've come from. Don't apologize for it. I don't apologize for the struggle. I don't apologize for any of this. But I didn't have to steal it from anybody. I didn't have to hijack anybody. I watched God do what I could not do on my own. And God will give you the desires of your heart. But watch this. Because your heart is lined up with his heart. That's where your peace lies. Whenever you don't have peace, that's because your heart is out of whack. And you're desiring things God does not have for you. But when you hook up with him, you're richer than you know right now. There's some financially rich folk in the hospital on breathing machines that would trade everything they have to be sitting in your seat. I'm not anti-wealth, any of that. I just realize that whatever God has given me is never just for me. And if the church was as serious about what we have as the world is, there would not be a need in this community at all. Because we have more than enough. Don't look at me crazy. You know you got a winter closet and a spring closet. You know you got some stuff packed away like, well, I ain't had this on in 2 years. Well, I'm going to give it one more season. Come on, y'all. God's been too good to us. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was Christless, and you walked past me. I wanted to know him, but you invited me to your church. You didn't invite me to him. I wanted to learn how to pray, and you got me to the deacons. Why couldn't you teach me? I wanted to learn how to worship, but watching you meant I came to church to be on my phone more than to be in service. God, you're going to hold us accountable. I told my children he was important, but church was optional. It became a drive-by as opposed to a drive-in. Faithful over a few things. You check your catalog and see what God has given you. Because sooner or later, inventory season is coming. We just went through this season of thank everybody who came out and helped us clean up the church this past week. But one of the great things that it showed us, we had a lot of stuff in there that we ain't used since Jesus left. And when we go back in, they're gonna be don't look for nothing. If you left it, it's gone. Bye-bye. It's funny with stuff, but it ain't funny with time, talents, and treasures. God has given you everything you need to carry out your assignment. And when he takes inventory, what will he find that was left over and unused? Lord, thank you for the reminder. This isn't how much we have. It's what we use with what we got. God, we got more than enough. I think about my grandparents and my parents, how little stuff they had. But there was so much love in those houses. So much safety, so much security. Now we got all this stuff and no love, no safety, and no security. We're more in love with our gadgets. God, I was over at Easton yesterday. Mistake. I was just trying to return something and walked past the Apple store. And folk was standing outside because the new iPhone 17 came out. God, I ain't figured out the 14 and the 15 yet, but that's just me. Standing in line, 80-some degrees. Manager came out and said, well, if you've already pre-ordered, you don't have to stand in the line. God, that thing hit me right there. If we've already got a relationship with you, if we already know that you are God and we're your God, there's something about this thing that you're my God and I'm your child. I don't have to stand in no line. My place is guaranteed, it's secure, not because I've been so good, but because I've been blessed. God, it's a communication tool. We'll stand in line for a phone, but we won't give 5 minutes for a prayer. Ain't they both communication tools? God, help us today. Be faithful over a few things. Amen, amen, amen. Let's celebrate God. The doors of the church open. Somebody's here today. who needs to make a decision of what you're going to do with the few things God has given you. Don't worry about anybody else. Look in your hand. Your time, your talent, and your treasures. How much have you given back? If all of it belongs to him, how much have you used for his glory and your brothers and sisters' edification? Is anybody better because you've been blessed? Is anybody going to know him because they knew you? Too big for you and I to try to contain him to ourselves. I dare you to trust God with what he's given you. Is there anybody in this house? Is there anybody in this house who will trust God today? Not tomorrow, not next week, not this afternoon. Come on, sis. See right there. The joy, the strength, moves, pain, oh, come on, and pray the narrow way. Are you sure? Are you sure you're giving him back everything he's gave you? Come on. Trust God today. God, here's my heart. Here's my mind. Here's my skill. Here's my talents. Here's my dreams. Here's my desires. Come on, bro. You ought to be more excited than that. You ought to be more excited than that. Come on, God. Is there anybody else in this house? You ought to know him. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Somebody ought to get excited. Somebody got a prayer answer today. Sometimes you ought to just be happy for somebody else. Come on. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Be very sure. Be very sure. Will you trust him? Faithful over a few things. Faithful over a few things. Faithful over a few things. Last call. Just whisper to the person next to you. It ain't gonna get right till you give it to him. Come on, bro. Y'all just ain't excited enough for me. That's two young men that had some other options. Could have gone another way. You ought to get excited for somebody else's child, even if it ain't your child. Somebody's mama, somebody's grandmama got a prayer answer today. He is a prayer answering God. I've seen him do what nobody else can. I've watched him make a way out of no way. If he's on your street, if he's on your street, it ain't too long for your blessing is on the way. If he's on the street, if he's on the street, if he can do it for them, he can do it for you. Is there anybody else in this house? Is there anybody else in this house? Will you trust God? Not Pastor Troy, not New Salem. Will you put your trust in him? Your day, your hour, your moment, your choice. Last call. Last call. Are you sure? Just ask that person. I'll walk down that aisle with you. I'll walk down that aisle with you. You can't ask them looking at me. Ask them. I'm already down here. Come on. Are you sure? Last call. Last call. Last call. Last call. Church say amen. Let's celebrate God.